It seems to me that one of the perennial tasks of parents is it's almost a daily task to find what it is that's going to engage them and excite them, and more importantly, to find perhaps hobbies, sports, fields of studies, maybe later careers, friends, that will engage them but also challenge them and stretch them and make them more of themselves. And it's something that's not just as simple as choosing between ballet and gymnastics when you're 6. This is kind of a lifelong task that every one of us has to engage in, arranging experiences, encounters, exposures, and waiting and hoping for the moment of engagement. Because in that, we are helping our children and ourselves to find our souls. Kierkegaard once said that saints are people who will one thing. Saints focus. If you listen to Mrs. Obama's farewell speech last week, she gave advice to young people, and the first words out of her mouth, don't be afraid, be focused. One of the assertions of medieval philosophy was that every choice that we make is simultaneously a renunciation, and perhaps 1,000 renunciations. When you choose a career, when you choose a house, choose a partner, you cannot keep choosing careers and houses and partners. Saints say yes, but with that, they have to say a whole lot of no's when they choose to pursue something that is to them worthwhile and consuming, and that may be something obviously laudable, caring for the sick or fighting for justice, working for peace, giving sight to the blind, leading prisoners out of whatever their dungeon may be. Or it may lie in raising children for whom the plight of the sick and the poor and the oppressed and the marginalised will matter. Children who will have a sense of justice, of right and wrong. In the last few days, I've amused myself by comparing the mission statements of various institutions of higher learning. And I've noticed that the grander universities take the line, more or less, come and bask in our magnificence. Allow some of our splendour to rub off on you, if you're lucky. And they don't pay a lot of attention to the ethical or communal formation of people who pass through their halls, and sometimes with predictable consequences. I noticed among the smaller liberal arts colleges, there was more mention of forming thoughtful and ethical leaders, about informed citizenship, independent thinking, commitment to service, courage to follow convictions, accept responsibility for actions, to comprehend and appreciate other cultures, ideas, societies, traditions, and values. It's lifted straight from the website of one of those colleges. And so teaching children in classrooms, educating young adults on campus in these values is also a holy task. From the earliest of the evangelists, the event immediately preceding Jesus' public ministry to the poor and the sick and the oppressed and the marginalised, this baptism that we remember today, was the moment in which he became divine. Remember that those first generation Christians understood that Jesus became God. It's still evident in that second reading from Acts, where God says, God anointed Jesus with the Holy Spirit and with power, as if that were not the case before. We know that it wasn't so much that Jesus received a new identity as the identity that had been there all along emerged more clearly and was claimed and owned by him. purchased. Subsequent generations of Christians reflected that, of course, that no one can actually become God. You either are God or you're not. God has no beginning or end. And so if Jesus was God at the end, he must have been God at the beginning. And so Matthew and Luke push back and begin their gospel with the infancy narratives, and the last gospel to be written, John, reaches back before time. In the beginning was the Word. But in the meantime, without the benefit of hindsight, for observers, it was in the baptism that Jesus' life and identity and mission all come together. That who he was and what he longed for ignited. The baptism releases Jesus to be himself. And when people saw what followed, the life that flowed from that realization, it was natural to assume that somehow in his baptism he received or discovered his soul. There's a Jewish legend that indentation at the top of our lips that runs from the bottom of our nose to the top of our lips was put there by angels. That the angels seal the divine spark in us when we were made. And that's why they say when we try to remember something, we put our lips to our fingers to our lips to try and remember what we've lost, because we've lost something beautiful and profound, and our lives are about recovering that. There's a Japanese legend that has the spirit of newborn babies arriving from a strange, distant place, and mothers then keep their babies attached closely to them, tied to them, so that the babies will feel welcome. Their spirits will find a home, but also that they won't escape and go back. The Danish legend holds that God kisses each soul before it is assigned to a body, and we carry the memory of that kiss within us always, and everything relates to it. These are legends, but they're legends from many people over many centuries and many cultures, and they all want us to know that there is this divine spark within us. It's there from the very beginning, that at the core of each one of us there is this mysterious beauty, and that the great task of our lives is to tap into that and to release it, to articulate that mystery, to reveal that spark of divinity. And that's perhaps how we save our souls, what that really means. Not something about that happens at the end of our lives, but something that we're engaged with right now, claiming that divinity, that divine spark within us, and living it out in the way that only ways it can be lived out, with joy, with creativity, with compassion, with justice and energy. John of the Cross began his great poem on the soul with the words, "One dark night, fired by love's urgent longings." So that from the very beginning, he wants us to be clear that we know our souls through what we long for. Our souls are revealed in what we desire, in love's urgent longings. And desire not as something that we kind of wish vaguely would happen if everything sort of lined up and fell into place, but something that we actively bring about, what we commit to our imaginations and our energy and our resources to making a reality. Our souls keep us glued together, give us energy and fire, keep us alive and vital. And so if you and I don't really know what it is that we desire, if we can't put our finger on what it is that anything that we actually passionately care about and really long for, then we're not fully alive. And that doesn't make us bad people. It took Jesus 30 years to get there. And as a parent, I don't know whether to be encouraged or depressed by that, but it does mean that the whole point of our creation, with all of its drama and its excitement, as well as its satisfaction and its peace and its sense of accomplishment, this enormous slab of what it is to be a human being is still eluding us. So much of our time and our energy and imagination is just consumed by existing, getting through the day, with things that really ultimately don't matter to anyone, most of all to us. And in all of this fuss and bother, this enormous busyness, we're just losing our souls. They're trickling away. Jesus discovers his soul, so to speak, because he hears from the one whom he calls Father words of love, words of delight, words of profound affirmation and affection. And it seems to me that for any of us who have the will and the freedom and the confidence to speak the divine name within us, to claim that joy and purpose and goodness that is embedded within us, you and I probably have to hear those words spoken to us, and not just once, but over and over again. And we need to speak them as often and as clearly as we can to those we love, to those we care for, to our children, yes, but to as many as we can. Throughout history, how much damage has been done by people who just never heard that. People who gave bits of their hearts to many things and all of their hearts to nothing and to no one, and so remained scatty and unfocused and confused, whose lives are one constant reaction with no core sense of who they are, and so no core sense of what they're supposed to be doing, what their responsibilities are. It's hard not to wonder what terrible damage has been done somewhere to them, what silence they must have lived under, never hearing the words that their souls needed to hear in order to be themselves, and what damage will continue to be wrought by that terrible neediness, that awful silence. And when we meet people charged with a sense of purpose, mission, identity, or making the world a better place by doing whatever it is that they do, but doing it with joy and fairness and generosity and compassion and justice, then we know immediately that the power of love is at work through them, with them, and in them. That God's face is still being revealed in the faces of those who have claimed that spark within their own souls, that God's life of exuberant joy is still bubbling up and over just beneath the surface of our lives, and that it is becoming more and more visible. Time and again throughout the church's year we return to baptism, not just today, but during the Easter Vigil, on Pentecost, All Saints' Day, and every opportunity we possibly can. Because in that act of baptism, you and I not only said yes to the liberating truth of who and what God has made us to be, to that divine spark that dwells within each one of us, we also said 1,000 no's to the evil that stalks our lives and the life of this nation, the evil of lies and of manipulation, of racism, of prejudice, of exploitation and abuse, of expediency and of sheer moral turpitude. And simultaneously we equipped ourselves with all of the resources that we needed to engage in that. The teachings of the apostles, this Eucharistic assembly where we are fed with that very body and blood of Christ, with prayer that we might seek and serve Christ where Christ is always to be found, and so strive for justice and peace while insisting on the dignity of every human being. It seems to me that somewhere in that formula there is the recipe for how not only our children, but how you and I will find our souls and tap into that deep joy which is the song